So here we are finally. Welcome to this video. My name is Damien Rohrbach. And yes, I was able to emulate an AMIGA 4000 and start modeling with SCULPT 40D, one of the most famous 3D softwares in the 80s and 90s. And I was also able to save the files, and that helped me obviously complete this small project because I was able to model the light bulb and make renders of it. And why a light bulb? Well, it's one of the first 3D model I was able to complete in a very satisfying manner when I was around 10 years old. I don't remember exactly if I was 10, 11 or 12 years old. It doesn't matter that much. I was very young. I was very happy. I had an AMIGA 500 like many of you, and I don't know where I got the software from. I can't remember at all. I had no manual. I just had the discs. And I remember that one day I understood what I was seeing on the screen. Also, the software was in English, but luckily I was already learning English thanks or because of the video games, because before the AMIGA 500, my father bought a ZX Spectrum, which was and is and always will be one of the best computers in history. It had 8 colors, and I was already learning to program in BASIC on the ZX Spectrum, and so I already had to understand English. And also, well, I was playing a lot. And as you know, that has changed quite much now. You can have many contents, many softwares, games in a lot of languages. Globalization has made localization something very important. But computers, most of them were in English, and everything was in English. So because I liked computers, playing with them, creating things with them, like drawings, like music, like programs, well, I had to learn. So my personal experience is obviously a bit odd or different in that in fact there were many things that I would not understand right away, and I had to understand it my own way. So that's an experience that also many people have, but also I have a very peculiar way to understanding the world and my surroundings. So I don't connect very easily very obvious things, and obviously it was a lot of fun, and it is, because I'm still like that. I will never change, and that's a nice thing. And well, 3D modeling was in fact already a very big thing decades ago. So I wanted to make this video also for the new generations or people that are just discovering 3D modeling. And obviously they might not know at all that there's a lot before Blender, by example. There's a lot before that. And that's why I made a list at the beginning. You could see the list, and it's not the complete list. It's I'm just showing the most famous softwares, and on that list there are some softwares that are still in use nowadays. One of the most famous active one is Cinema 4D, but there's also Lightwave, which is sadly not evolving that much compared to other softwares. But well, the world's changing, things change, people change, so it's always hard to keep continuity of developing something. And well, somehow the AMIGA went bankruptcy when Commodore USA went bankruptcy, and it was very fast. And back then I had an AMIGA 1200 with I think it was a Blizzard accelerator, because back then I was already doing a lot of 3D using SCULPT 4D, but then I started using real 3D, which was, because it's also disappearing slowly, even if many people are using those softwares, because there is a lot of nostalgia. But I'm not making this video based on nostalgia at all, because in fact it's very easy now to emulate or even to build AMIGAs, and there's also like a new generation of AMIGAs. The community is very strong because it's a computer that we really loved compared to others. Obviously the main competitor was the Atari. The Atari had better connection with music, so it was even used more for music. But the AMIGA music scene, because the quality of the computer for graphics and also music was well, simply amazing, and it still is, and somehow always will be. So with the new Raspberry Pi and with the Vampires and emulators like WinUAE that I'm using on a PC, well, we can play, we can use, we can install the new OS, and the licenses and the brands, the copyrights, they're still active because the names were bought and have changed hands every now and then. So it's not that much about nostalgia. It's more because in fact it's more alive than many could know or think. And just details. By example, you can see, well, I'm modeling a light bulb, so I'm obviously making vertices and connecting them, and then extruding to make volumes. And I even made, well, the center filament of the bulb is very rudimentary, but I made it, and I made it even beveled. I had to connect all. But you can recognize something that is a 3D cursor. You can see it. It's that cross, that light blue cross. And you might know that that specific 3D cursor inspired the Blender 3D cursor. It had exactly the same usage and functions. And that was decades ago. So yes, obviously many people that are now professionals of the 3D world, developing softwares as programmers or designers or software managers and all of that at every level. Well, many people had an AMIGA decades ago. So obviously inspired many people, and it still does. So that's the real reason why I wanted to make this video. And that's why it says that we're modeling a light bulb, but it's also a little piece of history. Obviously it's a bit of my personal history, but that I will actually do a series about me. So it will be kind of autobiography. Why? Because, well, the channel is growing a lot. Some people know me in person. Many of you obviously don't. But obviously, because I speak several languages, my work is starting to get noticed further and further by more people and appreciated by more people. And I think that many events in my life can help people get inspired to never give up their dreams, let's say like that. And that's why I will make a specific series about me. And obviously, well, I think you can already know, it's that series will also be made for inspirational reasons, because it's not talking about my ego or things like that. I think it's quite obvious now after so many videos. And if it's not obvious, then the problem is with you, not with me, because you should know better. And I know exactly how I am and how I live and what I live for. So it's not for that reason either. So, well, it's all for sharing, and because actually for artists, I really recommend you read a lot of biographies of other people, because in general, success, or how is it to work as an artist, how is it to live as an artist, it's not something that you are going to find pictured in the correct way in most mass medias. And obviously it's much better to read, and to read a lot, and not a lot just about other artists. That's why I said about other people, because actually I always believe, and I still and will always believe, that the more you know, the better for you. And that's nothing new. Okay, so a bit back to 3D. So obviously the modeling goes vertex by vertex. That's something that's, well, has changed a lot, but I love to remind people that in fact it hasn't changed that much. Even though we have many sculpting softwares, 3D softwares, the main element of most softwares is still the point, the vertex. And for me, it was very scary at the beginning, because it seems so slow. And yes, speed. Let's talk a bit about speed. Here I'm modeling on an emulated AMIGA 4000 with emulated memory and processors. Actually, this one has the 68060 Motorola processor emulated. So it was, and it is, the fastest processor that was available. And obviously that made that making this model, this video and the render and all that was really nice, and I could work at very good pace, at a very productive normal rhythm, modern actual rhythm. But back in the day, on an Amiga 500, I guess you just can't, it's impossible to describe how slow it was, the experience. So people who have experienced that, and I know that many followers have experienced that, because I get messages, emails, phone calls, so they talk to me about that, and that's why also I wanted to make this video. So yeah, the speed. Moving the window, moving something was very slow. So when you're a kid and you understand that you need to model vertex by vertex, connect them, then obviously we could do a spin. You'll see later. Here I'm just creating vertices, connecting them, selecting, deselecting, moving, grabbing, extruding. But there's just grabbing. You can't even rotate anything in that software. Or I still don't know how to do it. I never knew how to do it. So, well. But anyway, the software had, well, already quite some tools to model and to render also. Then we'll see that we're going to create materials. We have shiny materials, we have metal materials, glass materials. Refraction was also part of the glass version 2 material. You can put a ground, you can put a camera, you can put lights, you can change the colors of the sky, of the ground. The texture of the ground had a couple of options. Here I will use the red color, which was well, the story of the light bulb. So I used to model a lot, but I remember that one day I was in 3rd grade, so yeah, I think I was 12 years old. I was able to model a full light bulb, just exactly, well, even almost better than, or very similar, because I remember very well. Because I remember that obviously when I started I started the render, rendering in that software is the F8 key, not F12 like in Blender. Well, obviously you could not know how long it was going to be, but obviously I already knew it was going to be very slow. So back then the computer was in the hallway downstairs, just coming out of my brother's bedroom and my bedroom in the hallway. So it was exposed to many things. One was like my brother, and the other one was like light shortage, because even if back then I was living in Switzerland, which well, it's rare in Switzerland to have a light shortage, but you know that it can happen just because Murphy's laws. And rendering something was always a huge endeavor, because of the time the computer would have to be left alone without anybody touching the computer and without any other problem occurring, like a light shortage. So it was not an easy thing to achieve. So the render took it took like more than 24 hours. Obviously because of the glass and the metal. And that was very normal and was already pretty good, in fact, for an Amiga 500. It was amazing. And, well, obviously I saved the renders and all of that. When I was a kid, I made thousands of drawings using Deluxe Paint because, well, that's 2D software. That's why I'm not talking about that today. I was drawing a lot on the computer. I had a mouse. I loved the mouse. And I was drawing a lot. Drawing. I was making some animation already, also some music, also some programming. I did program a couple of video games. I even created a video game stage editor for one of my video games. It was about a train. So I had the software I made to lay the tracks and the landscape, basically. It was a 2D game. Well, many things happened, and I remembered that after all of that, after creating many things that were saved on a lot of discs, one day they all got erased because of a power supply. Well, that's a very common accident. Power supplies, they have magnets, and when we put away the computer, well, then I bought an Amiga 1200 and all, and I kept creating a lot of drawings and 3D renders and animations. I was obviously saving all my work, and I lost all my work. I think I was 17 years old when that happened, and well, life goes on. Then we sold the computers, and I started. I bought a PC then with Windows. I don't know which one, Vista, maybe. That was around the year 98, 99. That's when I started going to studying communication systems, starting programming websites. That's when we were learning HTML in the university. And that's also when I started painting, so my life was going through a lot of changes. And then I started my jewelry apprenticeship in my city, in Lausanne, where I was born. So obviously it all stayed behind, and I moved on to PC. On PC, we were already using 3D Studio Max version 3, I think, or maybe even less, maybe version 1.5 or something like that. I don't remember what version. But and I was already doing jewelry design. I was showing my master. He was doing 2D drawings using Illustrator on a Mac, on an Apple Macintosh, and yeah, he already was able to make very nice vectorial drawings for jewelry for his clients. And well, then I was using my PC and 3D Studio Max to make jewelry design and renders. And back in the day, 3D printing was something that was they were talking about it sometimes on the news, but really was kind of NASA stuff, you know. When it's about NASA, it means that you won't have access to that, obviously, and it was not something we were thinking of. But images for the clients and 3D rendering of the jewels. That's something I was already doing in the year 2000, 2001 maybe. Okay, so here we can see I just put the material on the glass of the bulb, white glass. So it was very easy to assign materials. You just select the vertices and go and change the faces material. And okay, so that's the first part is done. The filament is done, the light bulb, the glass is done. Now I'm starting with the metal socket and also just adding vertices. And yeah, the extrusion is just copying the vertex. It's not making the edge. Then there's a function to connect the vertices, and there's a function to spin. And yeah, we can see that many functions already existed back then, and many concepts were already active, present, or the concept and ideas of how a 3D software had to be were already there. And that's why I think that videos like this one are important, because when you start working or you're studying something, or you're dreaming or to become a 3D designer, a jeweler, or anybody in any field, it's very important to know what was before, to know the history, everything that is behind. Some people say that the past is a lost of time, that we shouldn't look back, but I think that's not a good advice at all, because generally the more you know about the past, the more you can handle the future. It gives you a broader concept of your reality, of the world's reality, like something more objective. You will be less prone to manipulation, ideas manipulation, when you know the past, because you know that many things already happened many times and they tend to repeat. So when you see that bad ideas and bad concepts are starting to repeat again, well, you won't be able to do much to change that, because that's a phenomena. It's an historical phenomena. History repeats itself. It's a fact. So it's not that you will be able to change it, but you will be able to take better decisions before or sooner than other people that don't know the story. And you will be able to really take more accurate decisions at a better time, and there, the sooner the better. So well, also with everything like computation, when you know what was before and what they're offering you now, because you know all the companies, all the marketing, every time that something new comes out on the market, they're going to tell you that it's the best, it's amazing, it has never been done before, etc., etc. But the thing is that many things have already been done, in fact. Obviously not in the same way, or the idea was already from someone else long ago, and maybe that idea got stolen, or inspired somebody else, or was bought. Some people buy ideas. That's one of the good ways of inventing things and softwares or concepts, and you can sell your ideas. Obviously, it's hard not to get robbed, but it's always interesting. Right, so yeah, back in the days, well, the Amiga 4000, there was a company called New Tech, which they had computers called the Amiga Toaster. They were used on many movies and series. Some are classic cult now, like Babylon 5. I just saw a couple of episodes, and well, the effects, the spaceships and space combat scenes and all that were made on Amigas using Lightwave. By the way, that's why, by example, Lightwave is still actually a very famous 3D software, and quite many people using Lightwave nowadays still, because it did evolve, but maybe then it did not evolve as fast as other softwares like Blender, by example. And obviously, well, some hardware and software, they don't age well, and the specific history of each hardware or software component, well, it's different. The human history, human relations, and all these softwares. My favorite software, in fact, I started 3D modeling using SCULPT 4D because that's the software I had. But then also, luckily, I always got connected with people that were modeling, and then I started using Real 3D, and I remember the huge difference for the textures and modeling. The renderings were just amazing. Actually, you should go on the web, because that's the marvel of the internet. Obviously, go check. Go back to where the list is, and you should go check every software one by one. If you do that, you are going to learn a lot about CGI and history of CGI and 3D graphics, and also 2D graphics, because each software had very specific capabilities. We're offering ways to render, the way we work with texture, colors, outputs, the speed also for modeling or rendering were very different. A Real 3D actually was you needed a special FPU extension board, so then I had the Amiga 1200. And yet I did buy, I remember it was obviously a huge economical problems for me and for my parents also, because the extension board costed more than the computer itself. And it was just to add an FPU, so it was a floating point unit for some softwares that needed that to make the math that goes with the software. And well, hardware was sometimes incredibly more expensive than it can be sometimes now, because obviously, well, computers, they were more of a geek stuff than a mass product, in fact. And also, well, many people said that the Amiga was like a game console. It was considered like that by many. Obviously, I did play hundreds of games. We had hundreds of games. I used to go to convention shows. I was always trying to find something on TV about anything video game related. But in the 80s, 90s, the world was not really about computers. So you would not find that much. Luckily, I was able to buy a lot of books about C programming and a lot of books for the Amiga. So I was able to program quite well. But programming was just like, I don't know, maybe my brother and some friends played with me, or we used the games I created, but I never went to edit anything because, like I said, I did not understand the world like that at all. I was just like, well, let's say just me on my computer. Obviously, I had friends that had also Amigas, so I had very good friends. I would go over to their places. Generally, I preferred going to my friends' houses and test games, and we would play for days without eating or sleeping. It was a lot of fun. That was especially when I was in 5th grade, and well, it was a very nice time for me because well, I was also always we had our love stories because even if we were I wasn't such a normal geek because I did a lot of sport, but I wasn't also a sport guy. It was, and that will always be true. People have always a very hard time judging me or putting etiquettes on me or labels, you know, to say, he's a geek. Well, not really, because I was doing a lot of sport. But also I was not the typical sport guy because, well, I'm tall, but I'm not very tall. I'm maybe muscular, but I'm not very, very muscular. So I would not be adequate for like the sports guy label at all. I had lenses, so I could qualify for a geek guy. But even if I would spend days and hours and days and weeks on my computer, I also used to go out a lot and play in the woods and run and jump and train. I used to swim, bike a lot, run a lot. So, but also I wasn't adequate for the geek label at all. So, yeah, I guess that's why I always connected with people that see further than that don't live based on models or labels or preconceived ideas. And well, now for me it's very normal, and I know that, and many people can see that generally faster, so I don't lose well, even if sometimes I keep losing my time trying to fit in, you know, you want to fit in the world, but generally it's like better to create your own world, and then the world, well, fits to your own world, or whatever they don't fit, they makes they communicate. And well, for me, having a computer was also a way of making friends. One of my best friends was in 5th grade. And it was very special because it would connect me with people very different. I had no concept of my religion. Well, I was born a Catholic, but I had no idea that of that condition, or also social, you know, if your parents are rich or not. And also there, my parents, well, they had money, but because both of my parents were working, and they were working a lot. So that's also part of the story, because my parents were not often at home. My parents never helped me with homework, schoolwork. But also my parents used to be there quite much, in fact. So it's always that's why, well, I already started making some parts of my biography here and there in some videos or on some interviews that when I get invited to here and there. And but that's also a characteristic because you know, I'm Swiss, I'm Mexican. It's always a surprise. It's a surprise mix. They're very different cultures or ways of seeing the world, and also because all of the cliches, you know, every culture brings well, good or bad concepts that seem to be so attached to them, being them true or not, real or not. Well, we can't fight those concepts. They're like part of the imagination that gets transmitted through books, through movies, through all the cultural exchange and the way a culture conceives another culture or religion or things like that. And it's a good thing, but it's also a very bad thing because generally all these preconceived ideas, they don't help people understanding each other at all. And well, for me that would happen, well, because I was raised between two cultures, and well, for Mexicans, generally Switzerland is the perfect country, you know, it's clean, it's the paradise, it's safe, there's a lot of money everywhere and things like that. It's partially true, but when you're born there, you need to work. You need to go to school. The school system is one of the hardest in the world. So you need to perform. If you don't perform, well, many people don't fare well if they don't perform because the system is not very tolerant and things like that. So it's not all, it always depends on your point of view, you know, the perspective. And obviously, when a Swiss guy comes to live to Mexico, well, everybody thinks you're a millionaire, or they think that you did something wrong and that you're stupid because no Swiss should ever come to live to Mexico. That's the wrong way around. Okay, so obviously, based on that, it's not really easy to share with others because there's so many misconceptions that you're facing, not even because of you, just because of cultural misconcepts. And then there's religious misconcepts and gender misconcepts. So yes, I think no matter where you come from or what social level you might have or how poor or rich you might be, you are going to face, well, obviously, if you are a human being that is trying to understand the world and people and do the right thing and be a positive person and really progress in this life and in this world in a spiritual way of human development between people and cultures, and really trying to make that people grasp their happiness and develop actually very positive feelings in their lives and share these feelings. Well, when you're someone like that, obviously, if you're already a poor racist bastard, well, you are going to face racism because you would be generating racism yourself. But well, obviously I'm more of a somebody that generally stays quiet and observe people and the world and life in general. And obviously also I was never thought about racial or religious or cultural racism in any form. But somehow, just because you're it's not because you're white that you're a racist. It's not because you're rich that you're not accessible, or it's not because you're rich that you are a racist also, you know. And every side of the coin has misconceptions about the other side, because one side can't see the other side. And well, too bad. That's also why we all face, as humans, we all face challenges, personal challenges, family challenges, professional challenges. So well, that's just about a bit of history. So here I'm starting to set for render. You set the observer, the light, the target, the size of the image, the resolution of the image, and here we go, render. So at first nothing goes on, but then haha, rendering. So this is a scan line rendering type. No, it's not a type. It's not a bucket type. It's a scan line, which was and is in many software still the main type of rendering, line by line. And this is rendering at the speed of an AMIGA 4000 with a lot more of memory and one of the best Motorola chipset you can imagine, emulated. But it's not working with my PC hardware. I mean, with my GPUs and my CPU and my memory. In fact, it's emulating the real speed of the computer, because the instruction for the software, they must be at the CPU, the emulated CPU speed. Otherwise, well, the emulation doesn't work. So you can see that it's not that fast. It's going to take a couple of minutes. We can already see the glass. We can also already see that the resolution is, well, the resolution of the model I made. So we can see the corners of the glass of the light bulb, obviously. The very big white spot is obviously the light reflection in the glass. So there, for those who, because some of you know the software, obviously. In that version, there's a glass 1 and a glass 2 option. I'm using the glass 1, which is not so refractive. I did test the glass 2, which has the refraction factor a lot stronger, but that was not actually the original, well, let's call it shader, because back then they were not called shaders at all. For me, nothing had names at all. Just what the software was telling me. But also I was not talking much with other people. We're just sharing images or softwares. So the vocabulary around what we were doing, well, was not very specific or professional at all. Even if back then the vocabulary was already being created on how to talk about shaders and things like that. But what I remember is that I had the red floor, which is the basic red. When you create the ground in SCULPT 4D, the first color you get for a solid floor is red, that red. So, and the glass was, I had a version that had only one option. So, and well, also on this image, we can see that I put the observer too close to the target, so the light bulb is not fully showing on screen. And but I remember also that the camera angle was somewhere like there. Maybe it was a bit lower, because I remember that I was very impressed with with what I had created, because the angle that I found for the rendering. And yeah, obviously you would make a preview of a very small render at very small image size, like what 40 pixels maybe. So you would see almost nothing, because it was almost like an icon size render. But obviously you would do that. That's something you would understand also as a kid pretty fast, because you would need to see what you would get on the render, because here we can see the reflections, the shadows, and all of that. And for those who are making 3D, well, you know that setting the scene, the lights, and the camera angle, and to get nice shadows and nice reflection, all that's a lot of work to get it right. So when I was a kid and I was able to get that amazing, astonishing angle, you know, some angles, some camera angles, they make more of an impact on you when you look at the image. You say, wow, you know. And I was able to get that with that light bulb. So obviously it made a lot of well, the impression stayed, the memory stayed. Well, actually, I do have a lot of memories that stayed, because I always was a very present. Well, I was always very present in what I was doing, very, you know, dedicated and involved and passionate. And for me, it was always very important. And it's funny because growing up when I was in high school, yeah, well, my generation would see what I was doing, but generally they was telling me that I was totally losing my time. Because of true, well, mainly because they would look at my images, and every time somebody would say, I've seen better than that, I've seen better than that, you're not good, you've seen better than that, I've seen better than that. And that was basically my entire high school years. When I was younger, actually the message was a lot different. I don't know, maybe, well, so it's hard to say. Maybe when I was younger, people were not so critic about what I was doing, or maybe I had better friends, or I don't know, or maybe I was surrounded by better people. I don't know at all. Well, in fact, what I understood is that it's true. I tended, when I was younger, I think I was surrounded by better people. And as you can see, that's why I want to talk about my biography, because like almost each step of the way since I was a child, there's something to tell, to share, because I know, because also I've been told that many people identify to what I lived, but some people don't have it so clearly as me. So it's not that it's good or bad or better or things like that. I didn't choose it to be like that. It's what happened to me and how it happened to me. So anyway, so when I grew, so yeah, obviously, so here what I did is I just changed there on the software. I just changed the color of the filament. I made it a bit more golden, and I put the observer a bit further away, and we're making a second render. And well, it's still really fast for what it used to be compared to an Amiga 500. So that's why I finally made this video, because I was well, also lucky enough this time to find the right softwares and all to make this video possible in very good conditions. So it's a lot of fun actually to do that. It even has interesting artistic aspects of doing this on an emulated Amiga, or on a true Amiga. Well, I don't have any Amigas left, because when Commodore went bankruptcy, I I kept using my Amiga up till 97. Yeah, something like that. 97, 98. So the late 90s. I still had the Amiga. I did not want to go to PC at all, Windows and all of that. But Linux was not really an option for me. It was something too far away from what I really knew. Not easy to set up. And the internet was starting in Switzerland, and obviously I pushed a lot. I was able to convince my father to have an internet connection, and you know the well, you know the modem sounds, and have a modem was. And I already had an email and a website. I was already making websites back then. Obviously, it then showed to have a lot of importance in my professional life, because what did a lot of difference for my businesses and me growing is that I started having a presence on the internet in 98, just a bit before Google was invented, but also because that makes that I started using Google in 90, was it 98 or 99? I don't remember. I don't remember exactly when Google was invented.